Dumb question from me, Chris. Seeing that aircraft carrier in Darwin Harbour last week, why don't we have one of our own?
Well, we did have one, Steve. You will remember the HMAS Melbourne, which came to a rather unfortunate end, and that was a very, very long time ago. And you could certainly make the argument that we should have that kind of capability. It's extremely expensive and would be very long term, so highly unlikely that we'd get it. But I'll put this on your radar. We should at least have some refuelling ships. Remember when the Chinese warships did the lap of Australia? One of the things that was shown then was that we were unable to keep pace with them because the two refuelling ships that we have, which you need to go long distances, were unavailable. They were in dry dock. So I would like to start there to have the capability for what Navy we have to be able to lap our own country.
Can't wait for War Cabinet. These things are going to come up. I had a little look today. China's got 2 aircraft carriers, as does Italy and India. Even Japan's got 2. The US has 11. So, you know, it's a war asset that so many people have. Now, tell us, Chris, who's going to take part in the War Cabinet? Any reaction so far from the government on the fact you're doing it?
I wouldn't expect to hear anything from them before or after the event, but we will have people who have been in government. One, of course, former Defence Minister Joel Fitzgibbon from Labor. We have Australia's longest-serving Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer, will also be on the panel, so people who know what it's like to be in a cabinet, and then people who know what it's like to advise them, like the former head of Home Affairs, Mike Pizzullo, Peter Jennings, of course, a former defence official. We have people who know modern warfare, Cyber CX, Catherine Manstead, Jennifer Parker, former naval officer and also maritime expert. So that's just some of them. It'll be a very large panel and we've got a lot to get through in a short time, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a great lineup. I really look forward to seeing it next week. Speaking of military hardware, Chris, the US President Donald Trump has responded to, quote, highly provocative statements from Russia's former President Dmitry Medvedev by ordering 2 of his nuclear submarines to be moved closer to Russia. It comes after Medvedev tweeted that Mr. Trump's recent ultimatum to Russia over a ceasefire in Ukraine were, quote, a threat and a step towards war. Your reaction?
Yeah, look, and it shows how dangerous the world that we live in is, Steve, and also that there is a nexus between powers, because one of the things that we do know is that Russia is getting war assets from North Korea and it's also getting them from Iran, and China is helping enormously in that. So those 4 nations are collaborating together. And it underlines the fact that the world is a very, very dangerous place at the moment. And Donald Trump, I think, it's interesting on this front, Steve, isn't it? He thought that he could end the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza within days, and it's proving that the world is much more intractable than he thinks it is. And one of the things I liked about the US president was the fact that he was saying he didn't want to get involved in any more conflicts. And I hope that he doesn't get dragged into too many more conflicts, because, you know, what we need is the United States completely focused on what is the actual main game, and in our region, that's China.
Yeah, you suspect they're probably trying to drag him in. Speaking of the Middle East, Iran apparently setting up a new National Defence Council going to be chaired by the President amid fears of another strike from Israel. Now, according to state TV in Iran, the council will focus on, quote, reviewing defence strategies and enhancing the capability of Iran's armed forces. That sounds pretty concerning to me.
It is. What this means is they're looking at a long-term strategic conflict with Israel, obviously. And now that their plan A has failed. All of their proxies have essentially been gutted by Israel. Their nuclear facilities have been hit, but you should never expect that Iran will give up its main goal, which is to erase the state of Israel from the map. And the thing that I find tragic at the moment about that region, but it's been this way for so long, is that it is now committed to eternal warfare. You cannot see any of this ending in our lifetimes, and it could well and truly become more willing and get worse. And Israel will be struggling to defend itself, surrounded by enemies forever.
Chris, you did that excellent documentary on net zero, and I think a lot of people watched that and suddenly woke up to what might be going on in our country. Well, we wake up today, Australian front page, Productivity Commission warning that the transition to net zero is going to cost even more than expected. Surprise, surprise. And there'll need to be greater government intervention. That'll mean more money from the taxpayers. None of this would surprise you, right?
No, but one of the things that does surprise me is the Productivity Commission used to be an absolute ornament to proper public service scrutiny. And the idea of the Productivity Commission was that it puts under the microscope government policies and subjected them to hard-headed economic analysis. And what does this report do? This report is trying to pave the way for government programs and including much more regulation in the economy. Now, you tell me at a time when the Productivity Commission in the past has actually advocated for more regulation, has been unable to put any kind of figure on the costs that are going towards this program, and is now talking about essentially flattening out environmental laws so that the government may proceed with as much haste as possible with massive industrial wind farms. Now, if you were a farmer trying to clear the tops of hilltops on the Great Dividing Range, which is what is proposed, you wouldn't be able to cut down one tree. What the Productivity Commission is advocating for is essentially we need to destroy the environment to save the planet. That doesn't strike me as a particularly good way of going about business.
Suggests to me that there's been some politicisation of the Productivity Commission, because Chris Bowen's going to look at that report today. I mean, you know, if Question Time was on today, he would have been asked a question about it and he would have said it's endorsing his government's policies and what they want to try and do.
Stephen, we saw it first in Victoria and we're seeing it in Australia. Now, you would know this is the Victorian government root and branch now is a creature of the Australian Labor Party, the Victorian branch of the Australian Labor Party. And what we're seeing in a federal level now is the same thing is happening federally. All of these agencies, which should actually be looking out for consumers, not just the Productivity Commission, but where is the Auditor General running his eye over the way that the government is distributing money through the capacity investment schemes, billions of dollars inside a black box, which are actually at the discretion of the minister? Why isn't that being looked at across all of the bureaucracy, including Treasury? I don't see anything but an acceptance of an ideological position by government, which they are determined to back in.
Yeah, and you just wonder, don't you, just finally, that, you know, if you go back in history and you were having debates about linking New South Wales and Victoria with transmission lines or building a new government-owned coal-fired power station, as they once used to be, that the taxpayers would be told how much it was going to cost and what it was going to do to the price of their electricity bill.
And we know now, Steve, like the thing is we keep getting modelling from people like the CSIRO on what the cost will be. The only modelling you need to look at is your own electricity bill and then ask the question, what's changed? Why is my bill rising? Why is the federal government needing to step in and subsidise electricity bills? Because the cost path that we are on, by putting more wind and solar on the grid, is going to be ruinously expensive, and we have only just begun to do it. We're yet to see the long-run costs of these big transmission projects, and once everyone is ticked off, as they explode in cost, that will be written into your bill for the next 25 years because there is a regulated rate of return on those assets. So you think your bills are high now? Just wait. They are on nothing but an upward trajectory, and nobody in government has any idea about what the real cost of net zero is going to be, because transforming the electricity grid is a small part of it.
Chris, great to catch up. I look forward to seeing next Monday night.